My friends, you don't know. Now, you may know, but you don't know how hard it is to be 150% perfectly healthy, to sit around watching this kind of stuff go on and not be able to talk and not be able to say anything. And it has been frustrating. I caught a cold. I think it's what it is right here in my throat. Monday, Tuesday, I literally couldn't make a noise. And it's been getting better as the week progresses. But I'm having to use my voice actually from the back of my throat rather than my normal breathing diaphragmatically, which is how we train specialists do it. So if you notice, you probably won't because of all the compression that we put on the audio signal here. But I still have some congestion in the throat. Mark Stein is standing by to take over in case I lose the voice during the course of the program today. But I just couldn't sit out another day with all this stuff going on. So greetings, great to be back, great to have you here. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. And the email address is lrushbo@eibnet.us. So let's review what we got out there. We've got Omarosa. We got John Brennan. We have Peter Strzok. We have the media claiming that they are not in any way the enemy of the people or the enemy of Trump, united today against Donald Trump. There's even a column from earlier in the week in USA Today. You know what? When liberals lose elections, in their minds, it means the system is failing. When they lose elections, it means nothing is working. There's actually a column. USA Today actually published a column earlier this week suggesting that the only solution is to abolish the presidency. If we can't get Trump out of office, if all of these combined efforts to send Donald Trump packing are not working, then there's something wrong. If they couldn't beat Donald Trump with the great Hillary Clinton, even though the Russians may have been helping Trump, I'm just telling you what the column says, then it's time to get rid of the Constitution. It has outlived its usefulness. And instead, we need to come up with a branch of government. Well, a government only has two branches. And the executive branch would be controlled and lauded over by the judicial and the legislative. I mean, it's absurd. It's classic. And this is exactly who the left is. Like on the Strzok business. This guy, maybe, I don't know what the latest numbers are, but he's going to end up with a GoFundMe campaign. $400,000. There are going to be angry leftists. There are angry leftists that are donating to a legal defense fund that he may not ever even need. The guy may not ever be charged with anything. He should be, but he may not be. He hasn't been yet. And I've got all of these people. I've got examples of conservative columns and various commentary. Why would people do this? I mean, the guy is a disgrace. He got fired by the FBI. He's a I really am, I don't know how else to say this. I'm shocked. I'm a little surprised that there are still people on our side who do not understand the modern day left. It doesn't matter what crime anybody commits on the left. If it's in the service of getting rid of Donald Trump or defeating Republicans and conservatives, it's going to be supported. I mean, the left is already a bunch of lawless clowns. Look at sanctuary cities, their attitude on the immigration laws that we have. I mean, get Chelsea Clinton. Have you heard about this? Chelsea Clinton talking about the great economic boon that we have had as a result of killing 63 million American babies since 1973. The economic boom from abortion? Yeah, the economic boom is how much money was spent in the economy having them. She doesn't even stop to consider what the economic output of 63 million Americans working might be. I mean, these people they're totally off their rocker. And to analyze them rationally is to fail entirely in trying to figure them out. Why would anybody give money to Stroke Smirk? They love the guy. He tried to get rid of Trump. He tried to get rid of Republicans. He tried to deny the opposition to the Democrats winning. He's a hero. Doesn't matter what kind of laws he's broken. It doesn't matter that he worked with the FBI breaking the laws. The left, look, Andrew Cuomo. You know, there's a debate going on which one's the real stupid one, Fredo or Andrew. Now there goes Snerdley in there laughing out. But I mean, how stupid is this to run around and say that America can't be great because it's never been great, and then they try to walk it back? He said it. They mean it. We got audio sound bites from their father, Mario the Pious, at the Democrat convention in 1984 saying the same thing. They believe America isn't great. Don't you remember, Mario? Do you remember that convention, Snerdley? Don't you remember Mario the Pious going on and on about the shining city on the hill being a myth? Of Ronald Reagan's tunnel vision. Ronald Reagan doesn't see the real America. There is no shining city on a hill. Instead, Mario the Pious lists every example of poverty, sadness, grievance that he can find. And he was the hero of the convention. They're all wishing that Mondale was not the nominee and that Mario the Pious was. And Mario the Pious didn't even hang around and accept accolades. He got on the New York governor's plane, which at the time was a twin jet, or prop jet at King Air, and flew to Alabama, did something like that. He got out of San Francisco as fast as he could. But he took over that convention. We're going to relive that. And, of course, the media and their, whoa, we don't hate Trump. We're not aligned against Trump. We're not the enemy. We got the media admitting that they are uniting against Donald Trump today in newspapers all across the fruited plain. Of course, Omarosa, well, it's, it doesn't take much to talk about Omarosa and be done with it. In the first place, I'm just going to tell you, do not doubt me, Omarosa, this whole thing is not hurting Trump. It's not going to end up hurting Trump. It's not going to matter. You have to understand the people that voted for Trump are not going to be swayed by anything happening in the swamp, including people that turn on Trump. And I think, if you look at Trump's approval numbers in the African-American community, they're still way up despite all this. Trump is at 50% approval in Rasmussen. And African-American unemployment is at a record low. There are real things happening in this country that people are benefiting from. The left has nothing. They don't have any policies. They don't have anything they can promise. They can't be honest about it. You know the drill on that. Trump's election was a triumph of policy. It wasn't a triumph of anything else. It was a triumph of policy and a rejection of Washington, D.C., a rejection of what has become politics as usual. And nothing's changed. Now, the thing about Omarosa, and I have sung this, is it sang this song or sung this song? Speaking of that, Aretha. Ladies and gentlemen, I was 67, I was 16. I was just starting to work in radio when Aretha Franklin bopped on this. I was telling Snerdley, everybody's calling her the Queen of Soul. And there's no doubt she was. I think that doesn't go nearly far enough in describing Aretha Franklin and who she was and what she did, her talents and so. She was soul, there was no question. She defined it. Well, she and James Brown was a godfather of soul. James Brown was the ambassador of soul. He wasn't just the ambassador, he was a godfather, he was the ambassador. In fact, James Brown and one of his wives, they were traveling through Georgia one night and they were speeding and a trooper pulled them over. And James Brown's wife said, "You can't arrest him. He's the ambassador of soul. He's got diplomatic immunity." It's a true story. They arrested him. Well, he was the godfather of soul. But Aretha? I mean, Barbra Streisand was envious of Aretha Franklin's voice. Everybody in music was. Her talent, her abilities, the range of music she could sing. But there's something else you need to, I think, need to remember and kind of remain in awe of. Aretha Franklin, after having moved there, was from Detroit. There's a little neighborhood in Detroit that an entrepreneur turned into one of the most powerful, one of the most identifiable, one of the most amazing music industry stories there has ever been. His name was Berry Gordy, and he did Motown, and there were two houses. If you ever go to Detroit, you got to drive by these two houses. That was Motown, where the recording studios were. In fact, the Motown artists thought that one of them was better than the other. And as time went on, some of the acts only wanted to record in one of those studios because they felt that the sound was just better there, acoustics and everything else. But stop and think of it. You had the Four Tops, you had Gladys Knight and the Pips, you had the Supremes, you had Smokey Robinson, you had Diana Ross, you had later on the Jackson Five, Marvin Gaye, the Marvelettes, what was it? The City Council of Detroit. Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, all in one neighborhood in Detroit. And that's where Aretha was. She didn't go with Motown. She went with Atlantic. She was wooed by the great Atlantic executive Ahmet Ertegun. And he signed her to Atlantic, and Gordy had all these other people. Just amazing in one neighborhood of Detroit what came out of there, and what to this day still defines American R&B or soul, however you want to describe it. Those Motown hits are still played by everybody. Millennials love them as much as we did when we were kids. Although the early Motown stuff in the 60s, you really need to hear it compressed. You don't want to hear it on a CD. You need to hear it the way it was mastered and mixed for AM radio back in those days, so that it could be heard when you're driving around your Ford Mustang convertible with the top down, or 57 Chevy or what have you. But it's just amazing, and that's where Aretha Franklin came from. Is she stood above. It's hard to say, but she stood above all of it. It is a quintessential American story, Aretha Franklin, and the impact she had, the reach that she had, the talent, and so forth. So, yeah, she was the queen of soul, but to me, I mean, everywhere you turn in the media, queen of soul, Aretha, it seems not enough. It's like right-wing talk show host Rush Limbaugh. It's not enough. It doesn't get anywhere near describing what I do, does it? Conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh. Queen of soul, Aretha Franklin. She was that, but she was much, much more. Anyway, the song I've been singing, back to Omarosa. You thought I'd lose my place. You thought I might even be distracted by my 80%, 85% voice, but not yet, folks. Omarosa. You know, I told you from the get-go, I have never understood some of Trump's staffing decisions. It turns out Omarosa worked way back, I think, in the Clinton White House, doing some menial things. But Omarosa basically is a civilian who ended up finding fame and stardom on a television show called The Apprentice. And this is what happens. This is exactly what happens when what I call civilians, people not in show business. I don't mean it as a put down, but when people not in show business, it is a specific mentality. Showbiz has a bunch of requirements for success. And interestingly enough, fame is not what drives. I mean, it's there, but it's not what drives showbiz stars. It's other stuff that does. The fame is a product of the success elsewhere. But you take a civilian that has no desire to showbiz and no experience in it, and you give them a little bit of fame, and if they can't handle it, Omarosa, Manigault, whatever, is what you end up with. You put them on The Apprentice, and you make them big stars, and you build advertising campaigns around them, promotional campaigns, and then you take her to the White House to do what? Director of Liaison Services, or what, just to get her in there. And then the time comes when you realize she is not qualified. She's not even there for a real gig. So for whatever reason or not, you have to get rid of her. And this is what happens. It's why you can't mix people, not just showbiz, but people that don't have any training or experience in it, who all of a sudden, she loved being famous, she loved being known, she loved being thought of as having been great without having to do anything. She should have been eternally grateful to Donald Trump. But what is she doing? She's running around secretly recording people in there. And why is she doing that? She's secretly recording her because she's taking out an insurance policy for just this thing in case she gets fired. She's going to embarrass them all. She's going to show them and so forth. This is just, to me, it's just so unnecessary. Now, the media loves it just like they love the Brennan thing and just like they love the Stroke Smirk stuff. Because anything to focus their hatred on Trump. If Omarosa Manigault was doing this same kind of thing to President Obama, they would be destroying her. And she's making the mistake of thinking the media love her, just like John McCain made the mistake of thinking the media loved him. She's just a tool. She's just a pawn. And they're using her famously for it. I don't think that any of this is going to end up hurting Trump. I think more people are disgusted by this and by her and don't want any part of this. Some people who voted for Trump may hold him some accountable, responsible, or whatever, but this is not the kind of stuff that's going to do damage to Donald Trump. There's other stuff that could, but this isn't it. Let me take a brief time out because we've already made it to the first segment. Back with more after this. Yeah, now look, I get this. People magazine reported back in 2004 that Omarosa was banished from 4 jobs in 2 years with the Clinton administration. At her last short-lived administration role, Cheryl Shavers, the former Undersecretary for Tech at the Clinton Commerce Department, said that Omarosa was asked to leave as quickly as possible. She was so disruptive. Look, the woman has been a problem. I understand this. It's long before she was on The Apprentice. I understand that. My point is, and feel free to disagree with it because I will admit I don't know anything about this. I'm just telling you, when you put somebody who's already a malcontent, who's already got problems, you put them on a nationwide TV show and you turn them into a star, and then you take it away from them, and I'm guaranteeing you, whatever B-I-itch characteristics she had are going to be multiplied by 25. I mean, look at what's happening to kids on Twitter and Facebook, all this fame seeking, and then they find it, they start losing their likes or what have you. It's not the total explanation for who she is and what she is, but she should never have been there. She should have never been in the White House. It's like I say, the staffing decisions, some of them have just puzzled me amazingly. I'm not going to go into who some of those other staffing decisions are, what they were. Many of them are gone already by now anyway. But this one is classic. And she's going to do everything she can to maintain her stardom, whatever it is in her mind, and her fame. And it's being fed, folks, it's being fed by the drive-by media. The drive-by media is happy to feed her appetite, her need for whatever. And the more she bashes Trump and the more stories she's got about Trump and the more allegations, it doesn't even matter if they're true. The media doesn't care. So she's getting exactly what she wanted out of this. My point is, what I'm telling you should have been known and understood by countless numbers of people in the White House before she was even brought in there under some work, phony job title. Anyway, welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and the Distinguished Limbaugh Institute. Telephone number 800-282-2882. Now, I mentioned how frustrating it is to be sitting around while this has been a pretty active week. It's not been what I would call a slow news week by any stretch. I've been chomping at the bit. But, you know, this may sound strange, but not, you know, I went through the show prep routine every day. I did everything but come in to do the program. I might have varied the times that I was working, but I still did it. But not having the 3 hours to come in here and discuss things every day. So all these things build up, and I haven't had a chance to discuss them. And perspective changes. For example, I'm watching people now discuss the fact that Rudy Giuliani says that the Trump legal team is going to argue any subpoena that Mueller issues for Trump to appear, that they're going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. And while I've mentioned this before, this is not news, it really hit me this week how outrageous, again, this whole investigation is. How unjustified, how unwarranted, how totally misdirected it is. It is more than a hoax. It is something that is so destructive to what's going on in the country today. It is an out-and-out lie. Everything associated with this investigation, including this whole mess that the Russians meddled. The entire meddling, the entire collusion, every bit of working with Russians to affect the outcome of the election in 2016 took place between the Democrat Party, the Democrat National Committee, the Hillary Clinton campaign, and her paid employees, including Fusion GPS and a bunch of corrupt people at the FBI. Donald Trump and his family didn't collude with Russia at all. In fact, the Trump Tower meeting, I wouldn't be surprised if when all of this comes out that thing was a whole Democrat Party setup. That the whole thing was a setup, like planting the spies in the Trump campaign was a setup. Not to find Russian spying or Russian meddling, but to create some. I think the Trump campaign was minding its own business, and they get this phone call, hey, we got somebody from Russia, got some dirt on Hillary. Don Jr. says, hell yes, we'll take it. The whole thing was a setup. You watch before everything is all said and done here. That's even going to be as much a setup as the dossier was. Look at it. Here's Robert Mueller, the supposed dean of honor and integrity in Washington. If that was true, he would have shut this down after the first month, and he would have changed his focus, and he would be investigating Hillary Clinton, and he would be investigating Fusion GPS, and he would be investigating Christopher Steele. He would be investigating Strzok. He'd be investigating Bruce and Nellie Orr in the FBI. He would be investigating McCabe. He'd be investigating Brennan. He'd be investigating Clapper. He'd be investigating Comey if he really wanted to get to the criminal behavior and activity and the real efforts to upset a presidential election and stack the deck against a candidate. He would have been investigating the Obama DOJ. He would have been investigating the Obama FBI. The problem is Mueller is part of that. And he's not going to investigate himself. This whole thing is nothing more than a gigantic smoke screen distraction to prevent the scenario I just detailed here. And to look and to hear Giuliani say, yeah, well, they're going to subpoena us. We're prepared to fight that subpoena all the way to Supreme Court. I'd throw this back in their face. Look where we are. We start out with Mueller being appointed special counsel because of the very, very worrisome fact the Russians might have impacted the outcome of the election. And what's Mueller doing? He's talking to porn stars. He's talking to New York City madams. He's talking to fringe lunatic people who've known Donald Trump for 25 years. He's not investigating any Russians. He's not interrogating any Russians. He's indicting Russians he knows he'll never meet. We start out with the Russians meddled, the Russians colluded. They worked with Trump to steal the election. And in order to find evidence of it, Mueller is talking to porn stars and madams. And people are not laughing at this. And people are not, and Mueller somehow hasn't lost his own sense of integrity and honor. Really, we're looking at porn stars for evidence of Russian collusion with Trump. We're looking at New York City madams. Name is Kristen Davis. I know you've heard me talk about this, but having 3 days this week of not being able to talk about it, just do nothing but absorb this and watch it and look at the absurdity of this, has hit me even harder. And then you add to it Brennan finally having his security clearance taken away. The guy shouldn't have, this guy has been single-handedly working to overthrow a duly constituted presidential election. John Brennan may be among the leaders of this so-called silent coup to overturn the results of a presidential election. There's no way the guy should have a security clearance. The guy poses a singular threat. Attempting to overthrow a duly constituted president, refusing to accept election outcomes. But let me try this another way. The whole point of Trump-Russia collusion was what? That Trump is Putin's puppet, right? That Trump engaged in some kind of activity somewhere, including in Russia, that Putin has the goods on. Putin has tape. Putin can destroy Trump. They've also said that Trump's businesses are nothing without Russian money. They've put out there that the only reason Trump's businesses stayed afloat is because the Russians financed and underwrote Trump business activities, and they want Trump's tax returns to prove this. Okay, well, add all that up, and what do you get? You get Donald Trump owned by Vladimir Putin. You have Vladimir Putin literally running Donald Trump, capable of blackmailing him. In this case, Vladimir Putin would be the president of the United States, essentially. If he owned Trump the way they're trying to tell us he did. Okay, then tell me something. We know that Putin poisons people that don't do things the way he wants them done. Putin poisons critics. Putin poisons people who fail in their jobs as assigned by him. Former leader of the KGB. The Clinton Steele dossier, who, by the way, you know what now? I don't even think Steele wrote it. You know who I think wrote the dossier? Nellie Orr, working for Fusion GPS in the FBI, and her husband Bruce Orr. I think she is a Soviet apologist expert of many, many years. I think that dossier, they're sloughing it off on Steele, but I think that dossier may have actually been assembled and put together in the FBI. It wouldn't surprise me a bit. But we'll go with Clinton Steele just for the purposes, because she commissioned it. Fusion GPS hires Steele. They pay for it through that cutout law firm, Perkins Coie or Coie, whatever. The Clinton Steele dossier was what? It was dirt on Trump. And what was it for? It was to destroy Trump, right? Now, before we knew that the Clinton campaign had anything to do with it, everybody believed that that dossier was the result of Russians either presenting factual or made-up dirt on Donald Trump. For what purpose? To take him down. That means Vladimir Putin was trying to destroy Donald Trump. doesn't it? The Russians, Russian agents, Russian intelligence people provided the information, the stories, the golden showers thing, just one of many things, that proved collusion, right? Russians did this despite Putin's decision that Trump would be his puppet? Why in the world, if Trump was Putin's puppet, would Putin want to destroy Trump? If Trump was Putin's puppet, which is what they tried to tell us and some of the media still do, if Trump was Putin's puppet, then what the hell was Putin doing assigning his various agents to put together a dossier that would destroy Trump? If you ask me, if Donald Trump is Putin's puppet, then Putin must be furious with his Russian operatives for doing what they did. What we've heard about Putin, such failures, such misbehavior, could earn those Russians a death sentence with just a drop of polonium-210. I mean, who in Russia would be stupid enough to defy Putin? Putin wants Trump, right? This is what they told us. Putin wants Trump in there because Putin owns Trump. So a bunch of Russians start working to destroy Trump? How does this make any sense? I mean, just media narratives, the stories they've tried to tell us. These both can't be true. Putin owns Trump. Putin wants Trump so Putin can control Trump. Putin destroying Trump. Those two don't go together. We know that Putin bought off Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. If Russians were helping with a dossier to take down Trump, Putin gave the green light, right? Why would Putin want to green light something that's going to destroy his puppet, somebody he owns? These people can't keep their stories straight. But beyond all that, just the very nature of this investigation is such an abomination. It's surreal. It's Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff. And don't doubt me on this. Many people in this country, the American people, know this and think this exactly as I've just laid it out. It doesn't make any sense. They know exactly what's going on here, which is why Trump has not been hurt by any of this. Because nobody believes that this investigation is legit. Nobody believes it's real, except deranged leftists who, once again, think the system is what's wrong when they lose elections. All right. A little longer, I have a brief time out here. We'll be back, and we will just continue rolling on right after. Don't go away. As always, on the cutting edge of societal evolution, and back to the phone. Well, we haven't gone there, so we can't go back. We're going to start with Jennifer in Floyd, Iowa. Hi, Jennifer. Glad you called.
Hi, Rush. I am so glad you are back. I was having serious Rush withdrawals. I mean, I was grouchy and everything. It was rough. We have missed you.
Thank you. It's mutual. Believe me. I missed not being here. In fact, my plan was, even if I had no voice today, I was going to come in here and I was at least going to open the show and let everybody know that the only thing wrong here is I can't talk. But we've got Steins on standby. If something happens, and it won't, as long as the adrenaline keeps going. People. You know, if Snerdley just says, your voice sounds like it's getting stronger. I said, it is. It's the adrenaline. It's after the show. It's going to die. I mean, temporarily. But I was going to come in and just open and intro the show anyway, no matter what today. But it's working out well. And what is Rush withdrawal like? I mean, what kind of symptoms were you experiencing?
I mean, I was just grouchy. So, like, I have my 9-year-old daughter and 5-year-old niece, and I was just grouchy with them, and I was just kind of mopey. And every time I'd listen for the music to come on, and I'm like, it's not Rush. And it was just really hard.
Were you worried that the left was going to get away with stuff?
I thought they might get away with some things that we wouldn't find out about without you there.
Yeah. You're so sweet to mention that. I know what you're saying, and I appreciate it. It's great to be back, and believe me, it's as painful for me when I'm perfectly healthy, when I'm feeling top of the world. But the main thing I use to do this doesn't work. You just, the frustration is just out of this world. And there's nothing you can do. You heard this also. Well, drink some hot tea with honey. Doesn't do anything. Look, I'm a trained professional. I know now at age 67, there's nothing you can do for a voice. Occasionally chocolate donuts. I don't know why. And they brought some in today. Occasionally chocolate donuts do something to take the gravelly aspect away from speech. But then it comes back after a few short minutes. But thanks again, Jennifer. As long as it remains this strong, I'm here. And I don't anticipate, it's just a cold in there. And I can just tell there's a cold. I've got congestion right there in the larynx in the voice box. But it's been getting better all week. Folks, we use a company here called Legacy Box when we want to digitize older photos and videotapes. And we do this regularly. You know how much stuff we've got? I mean, this program's archived. Some of it's on VHS, some of it's on old audio and video, and we're in the process of having it digitized in modern day format. We use Legacy Box for this. Legacy Box is the easiest and best way to digitize photos, videos, home movies. Super 8, for example, are these old slides that people used to use. You no longer have the gear to watch that stuff, but you've got all that media. You've got videotapes, Super 8 film, you got it hanging around the house. Time to get it transferred with great quality, maintain the original quality, onto DVDs or thumb drives. And that's what Legacy Box does. They convert the old film, video, and photos to digital files. They put them onto a thumb drive or a DVD, and they send it back to you. When you get that, then you can copy it and give it to other family members or anybody else you want. And you can organize it the way, but mostly you've got it so you can forever watch it again. Legacy Box may have the single largest working collection of VCR players and home movie projectors working in America. And they're all doing this transference, or these transferals. So if you're holding on to old tapes, you want to get them digitized, you can watch them again at legacybox.com/rush. 40% off today at legacybox.com/rush. John Brennan becomes so sacrosanct. You realize that this clown, Brennan, voted for the Communist Party candidate for president once, that he was a big muckety-buck in the CIA during 9/11, which they had no idea was coming. And he was also part of the intel group that was telling everybody the Iraqis had weapons of mass destruction in the first Bush term. Now, where is it written that this guy's infallible? Where is it written that John Brennan, above all else, must be granted his security clearance when this guy is actively engaged in overthrowing a duly constituted elected president? Well, you know the answer to the question. It's because the left doesn't care about the Constitution. It doesn't care about the rule of law. It cares only about its power. And folks, none of those are cliches. None of those are exaggerations. That is exactly what's going on. It's why Strzok is having liberals give him $400,000. The guy broke every law you can break at the FBI. He got fired. He got fired from the Mueller team. You know why he got fired from the Mueller team? He was the original member. Because he got caught. Mueller didn't want to get rid of him, and Mueller didn't want to get rid of Lisa Page. But the IG investigation revealed the texts that they were sending to each other, and it made it clear that these people hated Trump and could not possibly, in an unbiased way, investigate him. And Mueller didn't want to get rid of him, and Mueller didn't tell anybody why they were fired when he fired him. And he staggered. I think Strzok Smirk was fired in August and Lisa Page the next month. Mueller tried to hide from people who they were and what they were doing. Brennan, Ditto, and Clapper, all these people from the Obama Department of Justice should have had their security clearances pulled when the moment it was learned that they were involved in the dossier. From the moment it was learned they were involved with the dossier in the Clinton campaign in trying to run an intel operation to sabotage a presidential campaign. They should have been gone. They should have had their security clearances stripped way back then. But note that Obama didn't fire him either. Obama didn't want to get rid of him. Now, this was all in service to Hillary Clinton. It was all in service to making sure Hillary Clinton never got charged with any of the crimes that she had committed, because their futures all depended on Hillary Clinton being elected. Anyway, greetings and welcome back. Great to have you. Telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882. And if you want to send an email, it's lrushbo@eibnet.us. Now let's go to this media coordinated effort started by some editorial writer at the Boston Globe to have America's major newspapers unite and run anti-Trump editorials today while maintaining that they are not united in opposition to Trump, while trying to maintain that they are not the enemy of the people, which, by the way, Trump has never said. He said fake news is the enemy of the people. He never said the media in toto or the media at large. My point is they're proving everything Trump's alleged about them with this little scheme that they're trying. But here's the thing about this. They're not going to persuade it. This is going to backfire on them because you know what it's proving? It's proving something very simple. It's proving the media is biased. And of course, they maintain that they aren't. But you can't get a more classic definition and illustration of media bias than this. So let me just run through some of the things I collected here about this. The AP, U.S. newsrooms to Trump, we're not enemies of the people. The nation's newsrooms are pushing back against Trump with a coordinated series of newspaper editorials condemning his attacks on fake news and suggestion that journalists are the enemy. The Boston Globe invited newspapers across the country to stand up for the press with editorials today, and several began appearing online a day earlier. Nearly 350 news organizations have promised to participate, according to Marjorie Pritchard, the op-ed editor at the Globe. In St. Louis, the Post-Dispatch called journalists the truest of patriots. The Chicago... Let me give you an example of why this is BS. You've all heard that Andrew Cuomo went out there and actually admitted the Democrat Party platform that America was never great. And Trump can't make it great. America never has been great. Make America great again? It can't be made great again because America never has been great. The media is not publishing that. You won't find that story in Politico. You will not find the New York Times writing about it. You won't find Politico writing about it. You won't find any of them writing about it, folks. The AP gives a little lip service to it, but they're covering it up. And yet they claim that they are the truest of patriots. The Elizabethtown Advocate in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, compared free press in the U.S. to such rights promised but not delivered in the former Soviet Union. What? So this coordinated attack on Trump over something he's never said, perfect example of what used to happen in the Soviet Union with their one-party press. Trump's always said that fake news is the enemy of the people, but not all the news, not the entire news media. But for some reason, all these news people think that he is talking about them. Now, from a couple of days ago, little Brian Stelter at CNN, more than 100 newspapers will publish editorials decrying Trump's anti-press rhetoric. We have some big newspapers. We have the majority of very smaller markets, and all enthusiastic about standing up to Trump's assault on journalism. I can't tell you what a majority of the American people, how big a majority, agree with Trump on this. I cannot tell you how many Americans are fed up with the media, with the unfairness, with the bias. You know it as well as I do, maybe even better. Trump is more accessible than any president has ever been. Trump talks to the media more often than any president ever has. Trump lets them into cabinet meetings. He lets them into little meetings that go on in the Oval Office when foreign leaders are in town. He sometimes conducts entire meetings at the White House with the media present. He stops on the way to Marine One, the helicopter, or wherever. He stops and he'll talk to the press for 15 or 20 minutes. He just happens to call them out on their BS. Trump has not spied on them the way Obama did. The very idea. Grab audio soundbite number 10. This is Andrew Cuomo, the son of Mario the Pious. And yesterday in New York City, he was signing some bill somewhere. You know, Trump is egging him on to run against him in 2020. Trump is encouraging Andrew Cuomo to run against. Trump salivating at the chance to run against the son of Mario the Pious. And here's what Andrew said.
Look, the simple point is all this comes down to this. We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great. We have not reached greatness. We will reach greatness when every American is fully engaged. We will reach greatness when discrimination and stereotyping against women, 51% of our population, is gone, and every woman's full potential is realized and unleashed, and every woman is making her full contribution.
What an absolute blithering idiot. To claim that America's greatness has been denied because one group here or one group there somehow has not been allowed to reach its potential. Here we have it, identity politics on parade. You know, have you noticed, my friends, how many people on the left, supposedly college educated, supposedly well-learned, just really don't know anything? They just really are dumb and stupid, don't have any common sense. This is just a stupid thing to say. It's a stupid thing politically to say, and his aides started doing a tamp dance almost immediately, trying to, well, you know, we need to explain what the governor meant. The governor really wasn't. Yes, he did. He said it. He meant it. This is the thing. He meant it. It's not a new thing for leftists to think America's not great. America is flawed. America's unjust. It's immoral. I have been trying to convince people they think of it this way for decades. They do not think America's great, and their definition for greatness and their reasons for thinking America's not are simply reasons that do not relate to normal people. What he just said here doesn't make sense to normal people. What? We have not reached greatness. We will reach greatness when every American's fully engaged? The hell does that mean? It's never going to happen. It isn't going to happen. Every American's fully engaged. And what does being fully engaged mean? Voting Democrat? Advocating Democrat policy? What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything you can define. But to make my point, Andrew is a chip off the block. Let's go listen to Mario the Pious himself. July 16th, 1984, Democrat National Convention. This is the convention that nominated Walter F. Mondale. But the primary for the Democrats, it was very interesting. The Reverend Jackson sought the nomination, and he had the support of many, many, many people who would later go on to vote for Obama. And then Gary Hart-Pence, a senator from Colorado, got caught on the boat off Bimini with some bimbo and not his wife. He was also wanting the nomination. In fact, 1984 is when I actually began my radio broadcast commentary career at a news station in Kansas City. Promptly got fired after 2 months of it because the newspapers were actually writing stories about the radio station. We can't have that. Ownership came in from Salt Lake City. We don't want this kind of attention. Really? Yeah, you got to go. You got to be more like David Broder. Broder tells people what he thinks, but you don't know what he said after you've read it. I said, well, what good is it then? Well, it's just the way you do it. But during the campaign, I was having a blast breaking down who the Democrats were and what they were doing. And anyway, the convention came. The Democrats were not happy with Mondale. Democrats didn't think Mondale had a prayer. And they knew that Mondale didn't have a prayer. And what the Democrats were doing was simply offering Mondale as a sacrificial lamb. Why have a future star of your party go down to a 49-state landslide defeat against Ronaldus Magnus? They didn't want that happening to the Reverend Jackson. They didn't want it happening to Governor Cuomo. They wanted it happening to Gary Hartpence. So Mondale was Carter's VP. He was a war horse for the Democrats. He's very loyal, so they let him have the nomination, and he went down in flames after promising to raise everybody's taxes. And it was Governor Cuomo's speech at the convention that made everybody at the convention realize they'd nominated the wrong guy. We have two sound bites. Here is the father, Mario the Pious, of Andrew and Fredo Cuomo.
A shining city is perhaps all the president sees from the portico of the White House and the veranda of his ranch, where everyone seems to be doing well. But there's another city where some people can't pay their mortgages, and most young people can't afford one. There are more poor than ever, more families in trouble. There are elderly people who tremble in the basements of the houses there. And there are people who sleep in the city's streets, in the gutter, where the glitter doesn't show. There are ghettos where thousands of young people without a job or an education give their lives away to drug dealers every day. There is despair, Mr. President, in the faces that you don't see, in the places that you don't visit, in your shining city.
So you see, Andrew Cuomo thinking America's never been great. Not a big deal, and certainly nothing new. There's his dad, Mario the Pious, talking about the America that every Democrat sees every day, except when Democrats are in the White House. Then none of that stuff happens to be a problem. We were in the midst of a revitalized economy in 1984 like we are today. And the Democrats never wanted to try to get in on that and actually say they had something to do with it. They want to deny it. They want to try to convince people that an economic boom, an economic rebirth is not real. They paint this picture of squalor, of poverty, of sadness, never-ending negativism and so forth, and they are loved and adored by their own crowd. Here's one more bite from Mario the Pious.
We embrace men and women of every color, every creed, every orientation, every economic class. We speak for the minorities who have not yet entered the mainstream. We speak for ethnics who want to add their culture to the magnificent mosaic that is America. We speak for women who are indignant that this nation refuses to etch into its governmental commandments the simple rule, thou shalt not sin against equality.
What? Thou shalt not sin against equality. So, folks, the thing of this is 1984. Do you notice how the Democrat message hasn't changed an iota? And despite years and years of Democrat control, none of it's gotten better. Obama didn't fix any of this stuff. Bill Clinton didn't fix any of this stuff. The Democrats never fix it. The Democrats need this stuff. The Democrats feed off of this stuff. They need people in this kind of squalor voting for them. They never fix it. Their policies can't anyway. And now we have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a genuine ignoramus with an economics degree from Boston University. She's genuinely ignorant. And so are most other college degreed leftists today. It's amazing what they don't know. And all they can see is misery and suffering, and then they want to blame America for it and claim that America needs to change, when America is the root and the way out of all of that. The proof is the fact that many Americans have escaped all that. They don't escape this in Venezuela. They don't escape this kind of poverty in Cuba or anywhere else socialism reigns. I'm over time. Back in a moment. Wherever you find concentrated, undiluted liberalism, you find misery.
Rush Limbaugh.
Hey, swerve back to the phones here and go to Seymour, Connecticut. This is Terry. It's great that you called. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I did truly miss you, and speaking to you today is probably the second greatest honor of my life.
Wow.
Second only to meeting President Reagan. But
well, I understand that. Believe me, I never got to meet President Reagan, so.
Oh, it was a great honor. I was not quite 18 yet. He was running, and it was something I'll always remember. But I'm hoping, getting back to Brennan and Clapper and this whole crew, I'm hoping you can explain to us why all of these people, once they are not working for the government anymore, maintain their security clearance.
You know, it's an excellent question. It's a question that even I ask myself. And do you know how rare that, well, actually, I ask myself a lot of questions, which is a good thing. But I found out why. I found it, and it's probably not going to satisfy you. It's tradition. It's the way it's always been. Remember who these people are, Terry. They're all of the swamp. They're all in the, whether they're working in government or not, whether it's Republican administration, 4 years, a Democrat the next, they're all in the same club. They all work and do the same things. They just change locations. They'll go to a lobbyist office on K Street. They'll go work for a congressman. They'll become a congressman. They'll go work for the media. Then they'll become a fellow at a think tank in the administration. But they're all part of the Washington establishment at all times. And so they keep their clearances. That's what I have found out. I was surprised, too, when these people leave their jobs in Intel. They hold on to their security clearance, and they are privy to what is learned even after they're out of those offices. Check the email. A couple of breaks here. There's not really confusion, but people are asking a couple of things about my my monologue / rant on Mueller. Let me try this a different way. We start out with the scary premise that the Russians affected the outcome of the election. Now, look, don't misunderstand. This is all bogus. I'm just telling you what they told us, the people responsible for this. The James Comeys, the McCabe's, the Clappers, the Brennans, all these clowns, including Mueller, and all these people in the FBI and the media. They told us our election may not have been legit. The Russians may have tampered. The Russians may have meddled. The Russians might have info on Trump. Trump might be Putin's puppet. Look, if that's the case, why would Putin's people create a dossier to destroy Trump? None of this holds up. But that's not even my point. Here's Robert Mueller. He is the epitome, we're told, of honor in Washington, is he not? The epitome of dignity. There's nobody more dignified. There's nobody more sophisticated. There's nobody more honorable. There's nobody more honest. There's nobody more decent. There's nobody better. There is not a better human being in all of Washington unless it's Richard Benveniste. A little side joke. Okay? So, Mueller puts his team together, and it's nothing but a bunch of Trump-hating Hillary donors, 2 of which have to get fired after it's discovered that they are Hillary donors and lovers and Trump haters. And that's Strzok and Page. They would still be on the team if those texts had not been revealed. Mueller didn't get rid of them because he wanted to. Mueller didn't get rid of them because they were conflicted. He got rid of them because he couldn't hide their conflict anymore. Yet he is the dean of integrity, right? So the Kremlin and the Russians and Putin are investing all of this intrigue and all of this meddling and upsetting the outcome of our elections. They don't want Hillary Clinton to be elected, yet they're destroying Trump. We're told that the Russians wanted Trump elected, yet everything about this is aimed at destroying Trump from the Russian side of it. So now we've got the Steele dossier, which we've come to learn was a totally bogus POS. It's a piece of crap document, and it's been used by people who know it's a POS document to get a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign that renewed 3 times. And where are we now? Robert Mueller has indicted a bunch of Russians that'll never see the sunrise in this country. They'll never see a courtroom. He never intends them to. No, Robert Mueller is now investigating a lawyer by the name of Cohen, except he's not. He passed it off to the Southern District of New York. Now Mueller wants to investigate porn stars, Stormy Daniels. Oh, wait, no, that got passed off too. Now he's talking to a New York City madam by the name of Kristen Dibb, the most honorable, the most deeply integritified guy in Washington, D.C., the epitome of honesty. The Russians did this and the Russians did that, and there's nobody got a shred of evidence, and Mueller now is talking to such ancillary, distant people as Michael Cohen, except he's not. He passed him off. In the process of this, while all this is taking place, we all learn, and Mueller does too, that the Hillary campaign wrote the dossier that Mueller is using to investigate Trump. This is a man of integrity. This is a man of honor. He didn't see anything problematic. He didn't see any meddling in the election by Hillary and the Democrats and the FBI. He didn't see any problem with the FBI planting spies in the Trump campaign. And he persists in investigating something that did not happen and now demands an interview with the president, who hasn't colluded with Russians on anything. In fact, he's the biggest enemy in the White House Putin's had since George W. Bush and Ronaldus Magnus. That's my only point here, is that Robert Mueller, Mr. Integrity, Mr. Honesty, is at the forefront of an effort to overthrow a duly elected president. Where is the integrity and the honor in that? And how can a man with such honor and integrity look at all of the criminal activities going on the Democrat side, the DOJ, the FBI, and ignore it, and not want to investigate it, not want to investigate Hillary Clinton and her illegal server and all the trafficking in classified data, because we can't, of course, in the process, ensnare President Obama. All I'm saying is that none of this makes any sense, and by the time the historians write this, Mueller's legacy is not going to be one of integrity and honesty and all this other stuff. Here's Mike in, whoa, we have a call from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Hey, I'm glad you made it through. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for taking my call. I've been trying to get through for quite a while. I know this is an old subject, but I thought it was worth discussing, so I got put through. Thank you.
Have at it.
Bye.
Oh, my 9-year-old daughter says hi, too. This is I realized this after a little bit. So if any American citizen with a blue passport flies into JFK Airport in New York City and tries to get through passport control with children that they don't have any documents for, they will be detained and they will be separated from their kids until they can demonstrate some way or generate some kind of document that proves that those kids are theirs, right?
Wait a minute. Whoa. This is a scenario that nobody has discussed. So let's put you into the story. You're coming back from Riyadh. You got a blue passport, which is what all of us have. but the kids traveling with you don't have a passport or documentation. You're telling me that at customs at JFK, you would be separated from your kids until it can be proven that they're yours.
Yeah, and I would be detained also. And that's an international convention to prevent the trafficking of children.
Right.
It's observed all over, not just in the U.S. It's observed everywhere. But then we have real, actual human traffickers.
That's right.
Bringing across people with no documents and kids that they cannot prove that they are theirs. And we have a whole bunch of people in the United States who think it's the right thing to do when people are actually being trafficked to keep those kids with people who cannot be proven as their parents.
Let me tell you why this works.
Testimony.
Let me tell you, I know exactly what you're talking. You're talking about the southern border and this argument that Trump is separating families. Oh my God. We don't do this in America. We don't separate families and children from their parents. Oh my God. What has become of us? You're talking about that. Let me tell you why this works. It works because enough Americans are stupid or they are liberals and they buy into any allegation made by one of their own without thinking about it, without examining any facts whatsoever. These are people that have been trained in identity politics. They don't think of America as at risk. They think America's the problem. They don't think of America as being a nation at risk. All they see is, because this is all their politicians talk to them about, is a bunch of poverty-stricken people trying to get into America. And in their world, who wouldn't want to? Except, well, maybe who would want to, actually, because America sucks so much that these people are trying to get in, and Trump is separating decent families and so forth, and they just believe it. There aren't any facts to back it up. This has been American policy for the reasons you described for decades. And no amount of information to that effect is going to change these people's minds. They are so poisoned with Trump hatred that they will believe any made-up story. If they see it in the media, they will believe it. So they think Trump hates these people because he doesn't like people getting into the country illegally, and he'll do anything to stop it, including separate families and keep them separated, break up families, bust up. They believe this. I don't know how you tackle this kind of ignorance, because it's coupled with an arrogance and a superiority. These people think they know everything. You cannot tell them the truth about things. You cannot, facts do not permeate. And even in this case, Trump wrote an executive order to stop the scenario you just described. Trump's the guy that, in response to this caterwauling, he wrote an executive order that's in violation of federal law just to try to quiet these people down, and it didn't, because there's no way anybody can quiet them down. We're dealing here not with people who are informed and able to think about things. We're really dealing with ignoramuses who are so poisoned with Trump hatred, just the fact that Trump became president, and they've been talked into this hatred for 2 years, that there's no way of permeating, which is why I've always said that it's a waste of time to try to address them and correct them and get them to join us. They just have to be defeated. And I by that I mean politically. There's no way of getting through to them. We are more divided now than at any time in my life. I don't know if we're as divided as it was during the Civil War, but there are people today who think we're already in a sense, a civil war that hasn't become armed yet. But no question that the divisions are real. But it is striking to me how many people on the left I don't know any other word for it. They're just ignorant. They just don't know. Their educations have failed them. By the way, do you know the nation of Hungary has decided to suspend from the nationwide gender studies from their universities. Did you know that? Hungary has come to see the light, that all of that is a crock. It's worthless. All it does is divide people, and it's not worthy of spending time on in college, gender studies. It's not something that ought to have anything to do with a college education. Oh, would you like to hear this? Do you know that since we got rid of net neutrality, that download speeds on average for every American have doubled? Did you know that? Do you think these lugheads that believe in net neutrality are going to believe it? No, they're not going to believe. And even if you could make them believe it, they're going to think something is still not fair or right or good about it. Every time capitalism demonstrates its superiority over socialism, every time, and it happens every day, multiple times, multiple ways, it's still rejected. I take a break. We'll be back. Fastest since the end of net neutrality. Since the repeal of net neutrality, June 11th, U.S. internet speed has gone from 12th to 6th fastest in the world. In other words, average download speeds for everybody improving rapidly since we got rid of net neutrality, which is the government controlling the internet. Now, you think these tech bloggers are going to accept this? I can tell you right now, there's no way. They're not going to believe it. And if they do believe it, they're still going to find ways to say that it's bad and not fair and not equitable. And the Hungary story, Hungary to remove gender studies from universities. They say the courses are based on ideology rather than science. Bingo. Bingo. Absolute gender studies, women's studies, transgender studies, all this garbage is not worthy of spending time on in college. It's not even science. It's just left-wing politics. You know, folks, identity thieves, they're constantly looking for new ways to steal your data. And they go to great lengths to get info associated with you, your credit cards, and other aspects of your identity. They want your data so that they can sell it on the black market. Some make a quick buck that way. Then the people they sell it to, they're the ones that use it in actual defrauding of you. One of the latest schemes that's been discovered is very inventive. Cyber thieves place a plastic cover on the credit card readers on gas pumps at gas stations, and they're equipped with a tiny camera and credit card reader. The little devices have a Wi-Fi signal that sends your credit card data and your PIN number to the cyber thieves who are loitering nearby. You don't see this. It's a real thin film plastic that's over the reader, but it's got a chip in there that sends everything on your credit card, including your PIN number, to the thieves loitering probably in the, in the Pop-Tart section inside. It's enough information for them to steal your identity while you're filling the tank. Identity theft is alive and well. You're left alone to protect yourself. If you don't have LifeLock, you literally are on your own. And if you don't have LifeLock, what are you doing to guard your passwords here and there? That's good, but it's not enough. That's why I encourage everybody to sign on with LifeLock. They are the leader in providing identity theft protection. They do that by monitoring billions of online transactions taking place with all their clients. They look for signs that their clients are being defrauded. And there's nobody in their league at identifying this kind of thing. There's nobody does what LifeLock does. Nobody does it anywhere near as well. And they've got a restoration team should something get by them and a client get defrauded. They got a U.S.-based bunch of people called a restoration team that work with you night and day till it's fixed. When you sign up with LifeLock, one of their annual plans, you get a $25 Amazon gift card now as a little bonus. Sign up today with LifeLock. It doesn't take long, mere minutes. You can do it at lifelock.com or call them at 800-440-4833. But use my name because that'll get you 10% off and the $25 Amazon gift card. I know you've heard me talk about LifeLock. If you haven't done it, it's time to do it. It's pain-free. and you'll be so glad you did it some point down the road. At the top, our busy broadcast hour, but we've got much more, folks. I gotta hit a lot more before we get back here and finish today, so don't go anywhere. The pace. A little more things on this media thing with Trump. Have you ever seen a greater illustration of a bunch of dopes playing into somebody's hands? I mean, here's Trump out there accusing the media of this or that, and they decide to take action that proves him right. They are colluding. They are coordinating. They are planning. They are conspiring. Led by an op-ed editorial editorial page editor at the Boston Globe, 350 American newspapers colluding, conspiring to write anti-Donald Trump editorials today, proving everything Trump has said about them. They're out there saying, no, this doesn't prove anything, and it certainly doesn't prove our bias. We're not the enemies of the people. Okay, I have here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a story from our old buddies at Newsbusters. And the headline, Kimmel begs Wolf Blitzer. We gotta get rid of Trump, right? CNN host Wolf Blitzer was on Jimmy Kimmel's show August 13th, so 3 days ago, where he bemoaned the dangerous state of journalism in the U.S. because of Trump. Wolf Blitzer says that Trump encouraged dictators. The journalist and Jimmy Kimmel commiserated over how serious news organizations like CNN were under attack. Oh, CNN just hit a new low. They just came in under the Shark Network or something. I mean, I never even knew there was a Shark Network, but CNN got eaten by the Shark Network. I mean, CNN is tanking. If it weren't for the fact that they're in airports where you have no choice but than to watch them. I mean, it's pathetic. It is pathetic. And they know it. And they're continuing to do everything to shred additional audience. So here's Wolf Blitzer going on with Jimmy Kimmel. The combined IQ of these two, what do you think it would be? And they're commiserating with each other over how rotten Trump is. Oh, my God. We got to get rid of him, right? Said Kimmel. We got to get rid of him. Kimmel complained the news cycle was constant thanks to Trump. What? It's Trump's fault that they're covering Trump? The news cycle is Trump's fault? What, Trump won't shut up? Trump won't stop being The thing that has to be emphasized here, the reason why Donald Trump is at 50% approval, the reason why none of these things like Omarosa and all the others are hurting Trump is because of policy. Donald Trump campaigned on policy more so than any presidential candidate in my memory. Well, you always have to throw Reagan in there. Reagan had just a brilliant three-legged stool message that was consistent and it was easy to understand, and he accomplished it. Trump has been talking about trade. These people don't understand. The media and the left do not understand why the American people don't turn on Trump because of what the Europeans are saying about him. Donald Trump is teaching the American people about trade, and he's been doing it since the campaign. Stop and think of something. The subject of trade deals, trade deficits, how do you get more boring? How do you get more milquetoast? And yet Donald Trump has persisted since the campaign, highlighting the problems, teaching the American people how the American population has been victimized by bad trade deals. And then he's gone about changing it. The drive-bys, and Europeans can't understand why the American people are not abandoning Trump because of tariffs. It's because Trump is teaching them. If they just take the time to listen to these rallies, if they would take the time to listen to the way Trump talks at campaign appearances and elsewhere and on television, He is educating the American people about these things, and he's been talking about trade and bad trade deals for longer than 2.5, 3 years. So much of Trump's success, practically all of it, is rooted in policy. Policy that matters to people. And the left cannot fight that. The media can't fight that. That's why they're trying to go after Trump on he's not sophisticated enough, he doesn't have enough character. And they don't understand why they're unable to take him out. It's because of policy. The answer to every complaint they've got about why Trump won't go away is policy. He is more effective in explaining it, more effective in teaching it, and more effective at telling people how he is succeeding along the way with every one of these policies that he is tackling, be it trade or anything else. And so Kimmel and Wolf Blitzer haven't the slightest idea how ridiculous they look. Worrying on blaming Trump for the news cycle? And Blitzer says, well, yeah, it's been crazy. Kimmel then said, well, is it good or bad for the news business, this news cycle? And that led Wolf Blitzer to bash Trump for attacking world-class news organizations. Says CNN is an important part of our democracy. Let me ask you something, folks. If CNN went out of business today, would American democracy suffer? If CNN closed up shop, went out of business, would our country be imperiled? No, it wouldn't. I mean, not a shred. CNN going out of business wouldn't cause a blip anywhere except to people that work at CNN and a bunch of leftists around the country who depend on them. But yet here's Wolf Blitzer really thinking that CNN and MSNBC and all the rest of them are the only thing holding this country together during the Trump presidency. This is an arrogance, but it's also a stupidity. We assign, I've made this observation too, we assign to leftists a modicum of intelligence and then claim that it's their bias and their ideology that drives them. I'm being forced here to revise my own thinking that a large part of what propels these people every day is just flat out stupidity. Genuine stupidity, genuine ignorance, dumb stupidity. And an inability to learn, an inability to have an open enough mind to observe things that are happening and honestly record them, note that they're happening, calculate them, and try to understand why. There's just a flat-out total rejection of anything and everything that happens to be Trump. And now they've got themselves believing that they are the last line of defense in saving the United States. It's an arrogance coupled with a condescension that is breathtaking to behold. And then you have to ask, what is it about presidential elections that liberals don't get? When you win, you get 4 years, and then you run again. If you win again, you get 4 more years, just like Obama, just like George W. Bush. It's the way it works. Just because your candidate loses doesn't give you the right to run the winner out of town or out of office before his or 4 years are up. But because Trump is from the outside, and because Trump is not from the, whatever you want to call it, the club, he's got to go. And they claim that they're the last line of defense of our democracy. These people are single-handedly attempting to upend it. These people, Wolf Blitzer and the media, are single-handedly doing everything they can to blow up our democracy because they didn't like the results of a particular election. And that leads me to the USA Today piece that I referenced at the top of the program. This is by, Tina D-U-P-U-Y. How would you pronounce it? Dupuy? By B-U-Y-P-U-I. Anyway, she's an opinion contributor at USA Today. And a week ago, she had a piece entitled, Donald Trump Broke the Presidency. It's Time to Get Rid of the Job Altogether. Like I said, when the Democrats, when the left lose anything, suddenly the whole system is bad. When they lose an election, when they lose the presidency, when they lose something, suddenly it's the system that's gone bad and needs to be overthrown. It can't possibly be that they were rejected for legitimate reasons. It just can't be. So now they're willing to get rid of the presidency altogether and the Constitution. And of course, they would never think anything like this if Hillary Clinton had won. But let me just share with you some of USA Today actually published this. You know, this is no different than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez getting a degree in economics and not even knowing what it is. She is literally a dunce when it comes to basic economics 101, and she got a degree in it. And this is happening all over the American university system, particularly Ivy League, which is where people are trained to end up in government and the bureaucracy and in charge of things. Donald Trump broke the presidency. It's time to get rid of the job altogether. Donald Trump is proof that the U.S. presidency is broken and democracy is in peril. It's time to amend the Constitution and abolish the presidency. This babe, Tina Dupie, is a former Capitol Hill staffer. I don't know if she's a Chi-Com spy like was on Dianne Feinstein's staff, but she was a Capitol Hill staffer. She has written for The Atlantic, for the Los Angeles Times, for Vox, and for Mother Jones. And she is a host on satellite radio's leftist channel. We've seen it. The belligerent, typo-ridden tweets, the fawning press conferences with autocrats and overlords, the self-described Nazis on parade praising an American president's name. We've seen it with our own eyes. There's a bloated authoritarian lounging in his bathrobe in a 200-year-old mansion that used to symbolize the principal republic of the world. This is a man who openly conspired to cheat with the help of a hostile foreign nation in a federal election. Now, this is what I mean. These people literally believe something that did not happen. The Russians did not affect the outcome of an election or a single vote. It's the Democrats that worked with Russians to sabotage a campaign, not the other way around. And this woman, published by USA Today, a former Capitol Hill staffer, is embarrassingly dumb. There's no other way to describe this. It's not enough to say she's wrong or misguided. This is just genuinely stupid. I need some... Is it hurting my argument to call them this? I've tried every which way. They're misguided, they're incorrect, they're wrong, they believe the wrong meaning. But this is just, how do you write this? You lose an election, it means that presidency is no longer worthwhile. It's been sabotaged. The Constitution needs to be amended. This is a man who openly conspired to cheat with the help of a hostile foreign nation. On election night, he came in second place, yet due to a scab of slavery in the Constitution, the Electoral College, this usurper has the full power of the most powerful military in history, command of the Treasury, the absolute power to pardon, and he can unilaterally annihilate millions of people with his command to deploy nuclear weapons. He has made refugees begging us for mercy into orphans, hoping it will deter other asylum seekers, because he can. He's now poised to put a man in the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, who believes in supreme leaders. Russia attacked our country. The target was Hillary Clinton and liberal democracy, and they hit their mark. No, Tina, this is the great irony. The Russian target was Donald Trump. If what you believe is, if you believe the Russians meddled, now you go look at the Trump dossier, the Steele, you go look at all of this stuff. It was designed to destroy Donald Trump, Tina. If Donald Trump is Vladimir Putin's puppet, then why are Russian agents creating material designed to destroy Trump? It doesn't make any sense. Russia attacked our country. The target was Hillary. No, Hillary Clinton is working with the Russians. Vladimir Putin wanted a derelict in the White House. Vladimir Putin wanted somebody he knew he could dominate, manipulate, control. Vladimir Putin wanted somebody in the White House he knew he had already bought. And her husband. If you're stunned that President Trump is still in office because he's so horrible and so unpopular and so obviously corrupt, you're not alone. The overwhelming majority agrees with you. Only about 25% of eligible voters voted for President. Grab them by the... Yes, the majority was apparently powerless to stop him. And then she goes on to say impeachment will not remove Trump from office. It's never happened. We have to abolish the presidency. You know how stupid this is? How long would it take you to amend the Constitution and write the presidency out of it? How long would it take you to, assuming you could even do it, how long would that take? Long after Trump leaves office in 2024. I mean, this is just flat out, it's dumb. It's panic-stricken, dumb, and stupid. And here it is published in USA Today as a serious piece of work. Oh, by the way, McClatchy News records another big revenue drop and a loss for the second quarter. McClatchy's part of the 100 newspapers colluding against Trump. Unsurprisingly, McClatchy added a new chapter to the hard luck story of the company and a legacy newspaper industry. Second quarter financial results announced Friday. The bottom is dropping out of many legacy news organizations. And how about this headline? Aides regularly tell Trump not to call foreign leaders at odd hours because he doesn't understand time zones. Now, does anybody believe that this is true, that Donald Trump doesn't know time zones, that he doesn't know that Moscow is 7 or 8 hours ahead, and so when it's 8 o'clock here, not call Putin? He has properties all over the world. He knows time. This is in thehill.com. Trump doesn't know time zone. It's so absurd.
Have you done
A Russia investigation, Manafort trial, and the prosecutors in that case, they have bungled that. They're probably going to get away with it, but man. In the meantime, I'm going to get it back to the phones. People have been waiting a long time here, and I haven't gotten to enough of you. It's Jerry in Temperance, Michigan. Welcome, sir. Great to have you here.
Great to talk to you, Rush. Reason I called is the FISA judges. We have, they've been really, really silent. By now, they should know that they've been lied to, and I don't think there's any judge out there that would put up with being lied to.
Well, you would think they know they've been lied to, but we don't know that they know that. Common sense fails. I can't tell you how many times. I have the same question as you. If they know they've been lied to, what are they doing about it? Or what are they going to do about it? Or what will they do about it? Or do they even care? FISA warrants, many people say, become rubber stamping for the most part over the years. But if what we think happened, if this dossier was primo evidence number one, and if it's totally made up, and if the judges were not told it's nothing more than Clinton campaign oppo research, that it was not legitimate intel, I would think they'd be livid. I would think they would be just livid at having been lied to and used this way. And now there is an inspector general investigation of this going on, and I'm sure the FISA judges are aware of that. So that may be where this will all be exposed. Things that this idiot John Brennan has, he wrote an op-ed. They gave the guy an op-ed somewhere, New York Times, Washington Post somewhere, after his security clearance is pulled. Do you know one of the things he wrote in his assault on Donald Trump was that Donald Trump actually asked the Russians to spy on Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump asked a foreign state, a foreign power, an enemy state, to actually conduct surveillance on Hillary Clinton. Yeah, he's talking about Trump's joke. Now, this, to me, is well, it's a big deal because, to me, this is personal. My sense of humor is satire and parody. And that's exactly what Trump was doing when he made this comment. Let's reset the stage. This happened in the summer of 2017. I'm sorry, 2016. And Hillary's email server had 60,000 emails, and she turned over 30,000 and then said the others were not important. They had to do with her daughter's wedding registry and yoga lessons and all that. And she deleted them. And she used BleachBit and all this other stuff. And people didn't believe that. And besides, wherever there are emails, there are backups. There are copies. Somewhere Hillary Clinton's emails are. They still are. They're somewhere. They exist somewhere. She can BleachBit her server all she wants, but her server was not air-gapped, meaning it was connected to the internet. So they're somewhere. And so the media was going nuts about it. A lot of people were raising questions about where Hillary's missing emails were. And Trump thought it was ridiculous because somebody had them. Somebody knows where they are. So Trump starts mocking all of this so-called concern. And he said, Russia, if you're listening, so many people are trying to find Hillary's emails. He jokes because the real point, nobody wanted to find them. They're trying to cover them up. So Trump says, Russia, if you're listening, maybe you can help find them. And if you do, you might want to let the U.S. media know. When I saw that, I started laughing myself silly because that is a humor technique that I have employed religiously, and it's gotten me in trouble. Leftists do not get it. I can't tell you the number of times that I have been misunderstood and then labeled something horrible because of a similar kind of joke. They have no sense of humor. They don't laugh about anything anyway. But they do not, when you're mocking them and laughing at them, that's not tolerable. That isn't permissible. And here is John Brennan. This guy ran the CIA, and he wants us to believe, and he doesn't understand that this is a joke. He wants us to believe that Donald Trump is actually suborning Russia investigating Hillary Clinton, that he was actually inviting Vladimir Putin to spy on Hillary Clinton. Now, what kind of stupid is that? Just plain, but he's dead serious, or he at least wants people to think that Trump was really, and he's not alone. Now that, folks, that is a big gulf. That's a big divide. They're comedians. We're supposed to, whatever they laugh at, we're supposed to laugh at too. We're supposed to get their humor. Even when we're the targets, we're supposed to say, it's just a joke. Come on, Rush, it's just humor. Grow up. Man up. But their humor isn't even funny anymore. Their late-night comics don't do comedy. Their late-night comics are where you find their policy, for crying out loud now. Their late-night comics have Wolf Blitzer on to discuss how in the world we can get rid of Trump on a comedy show. Trump is funnier than all three late-night comedy shows put together, or all five, however many there are. But to me, this just is it's another example of the great divide. And, you know, you go back to this babe at USA Today, Tina What's-Her-Face, writing about how Trump is just outrageous. We've got to get rid of the presidency. This babe, Trump won, which means our democracy is over. Trump won, which means our Constitution is a relic. We need to amend the Constitution and get rid of the presidency since we can't get rid of Trump. Right. You know, and in her piece, which I shared with you, which I read very interpretively well, she talks about all these horrible things Trump can do because he can. What does that mean? Because he can. They are livid when Trump executes presidential power. They are livid when Trump fires James Comey. They are livid when Trump does his travel bit. They are livid when Trump nominates a Supreme Court justice. They can't stand Trump exercising presidential power. That's what they can't come to grips with. That's what they cannot accept. They can't accept losing. They can't accept that kind of power being in the hands of other people. And since it happened, then the way it happened must be corrupt. When they lose, we got to get rid of the presidency. When they lose, and USA Today publishes this? How about, I asked Mr. Snerdley earlier if he was shocked, like much of official Republicandom was, when Tim Pawlenty lost his effort to his campaign in the race for governor of Minnesota. And Snerdley said, well, hell no, I wasn't shocked. Well, I guarantee you that the Republican hierarchy was. This is yet another example of this massive divide. Tim Pawlenty loses in a primary by 9 points. And the Republican establishment is beside us. They don't understand why. Because to them, Pawlenty is the perfect anti-Trump. And everybody wants the anti-Trump now, right? Everybody hates Trump now. Everybody's had their fill of Trump. Everybody wants something more reasonable and more whatever. The Republican Party in Minnesota. Now, by the way, there was a very, very red flag thing in Minnesota that happened. I'll get to in a minute. But even the Republicans still don't get it. 90% of the Republican Party supports Trump, and the Republican hierarchy is shocked when Tim Pawlenty loses? No, the thing that happened, Democrat turnout in Minnesota was twice what Republican was. And, you know, Trump lost Minnesota by, I think, 45,000 votes, which is close in Minnesota. Minnesota's got the Democrat Farmer Labor Party there, which is their version of the Democrat Party. It's very, very radical left. But it's you know, the people, oh, wow, this blue wave, it's really going to happen. It's really going to happen. Look at it, Minnesota, twice the turnout. Well, probably reflective of the population, too. And, of course, now the Democrats are beside themselves because a transgender won an election in Vermont. Oh, sorry, can't say transgender. Do you know that's racist? I don't know how, but when you call a transgender, it's somehow a put down. You're not supposed to do it. Well, I don't know. I have the slightest idea. I just call them people because we strip it all away. That's what they are. Anyway, they're thinking that signifies blue wave as well. Well, I know it's Vermont, but the Democrat Party, the party of the abnormals, and they're expecting a revolution of these people, and that's where their blue wave is coming from. Grab audio soundbite number 17. This is the New York City Madam, Kristen Davis, is talking about Mueller and his unending effort to find Russian meddling in the election. And it started out that Mueller was going to probably indict and arrest Trump in 6 months. And don't doubt me on that. Everybody thought Mueller was going to be able to get the evidence and get rid of Trump in 6 months. I can't believe it's gone on over a year. And now it's deteriorated to the point that Mueller is talking to New York City madams. So Tuesday on WNYW TV, Good Day New York, the guest is the madam, Kristen Davis. And the co-host said, we were talking earlier how intimidating it must have been to be questioned by the grand jury, Robert Mueller's grand jury. Was it? Was it really intimidating?
Completely. I mean, you're sitting in a room, there's no defense attorney, which is how the grand jury goes, with a prosecutor who clearly has a rapport with these jurors and answering leading questions. It bothered me. I left there feeling very sick to my stomach.
How did you get involved with Russian collusion?
I don't actually think any collusion happened, so I don't know anything about it, but Roger Stone happens to be one of my best friends. Him and his wife are my child's godparents. I've worked for him off and on for 10 years.
What did they ask you in the grand jury?
I mean, they're legitimately going after Russian collusion. They're concerned about whether or not it actually happened. Tweets and things that seem to foretell of this hacking coming and whether or not we really knew.
They're talking to a New York City madam. I know you and Rio Linda are not confused by this, but do you know what we're talking about here? How would you describe a madam to somebody who really doesn't know what one is? What? Okay, she runs the brothel. Okay? We're not supposed to say hoe. She runs the house of ill repute. The house of the rising sun. Right? Okay. She runs a place where guys like Elliot Spitzer pay money to have sex with women while still wearing their socks, okay? That's who and this is who Mueller is talking to about Russian collusion? Come on, soda. This is Richard. Great to have you on the EIB network. Richard, hello.
Hello. Wow. I'm truly in the presence of greatness. Infinite dittos, Rush.
Thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate that.
From the, I would say the land of 10,000 lakes, but it's the land of leftists that voted for Keith Ellison for some reason.
Oh, yeah. That's somebody, we haven't touched on that today, but Keith Ellison's been touching a lot of stuff out there today, right? Of course, when he does it, it didn't happen. And anybody, Me Too, what Me Too?
Yeah, exactly. I've been listening to you since I was a 17-year-old kid. I'm 47 now, and thank you for congratulations on your 30 years. And,
thank you.
And what you've helped me learn over these years.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You were talking earlier. You opened up the show about this whole thing with Omarosa.
Right.
I think this. I'm sorry. I'm one of the people that think this is absolutely hilarious because I never watched The Apprentice, but I had always heard, it was a Trump thing, and there was this evil woman on there named Omarosa, and she would lie and she would cheat and she would steal. She was the devil incarnate and all this stuff, right? So then I hear that Trump brought her into hired her at the White House. And I'm thinking, what is he thinking? Well, he's a loyal guy. She will end up on MSNBC as a commentator because this gal loves the spotlight.
I don't think they're going to be able to pay her enough. I think this woman's going to be making so damn much money with this stuff. I mean, if they're going to give Stroke $500,000 for breaking the law in the FBI the way he did, imagine how much the left will shower this one. She's going to end up making a fool of her. She already has. She's making herself look like a fool. It isn't going to hurt Trump. Don't doubt me on this. And by hurt Trump, it's not going to hurt Trump's reelection effort in 2020. Now, whether it hurts the Republican effort in the midterm, that's another thing. Who knows? But maybe she'd be on MSNBC. Hell, I don't know. She'll go wherever fame takes her. Wherever hair and makeup is free. And leftists would trust her. They'll trick her. She hates Trump. She's trying to destroy Trump. They'll roll out the red carpet for her somewhere. That's why they're giving Stroke $500,000 or $4, whatever it is. I don't know why it's so hard. People can't believe it. Leftists are donating to Stroke. What is so hard to learn about who the left is? Why is it so hard? I mean, these are conservatives asking this question. Anyway, Richard, I appreciate the call. I really do. Folks, one more time here very quickly. If you are reliant on your computer for anything in your life, you have to make sure the data on that computer is backed up because something is going to happen to it. Something's going to happen to the hard drive in the computer, or something's going to happen to the computer. You're going to, at least once experience losing everything on it. And if you're backed up, it's not a big deal. But if you're not, it's panic time. Every computer eventually crashes. Yours, mine, and sometimes more than once. You need to be backed up, and you cannot be backed up too many times. You would love to have a bootable backup, meaning you restore it and you can boot up a brand new computer with what you restore. iDrive makes this easy. You establish one account, just a couple minutes time, and then as you work on your computer every day, iDrive starts backing it up incrementally. Your initial backup takes some time, or you can do it instantly by putting it on a hard drive and offloading it to them, but after that's done, everything changes. Every little thing that changes is backed up as well. You're not even aware of it. You'll forget that it's happening until you need it. Whether you are a consumer or a business, iDrive is a must, and it is the best. It's an insurance policy for your critical data. Plans start at less than $6 a month, and using my name will get you 90% off the first year. That's how much they want you. That's how much they want you to love what they offer. iDrive.com. This headline at New York Post, page 6. You ready for this? Lena Dunham celebrates her hysterectomy with nude photos. What? Is that just... That's just stupid.